everybody, and welcome. Thanks for joining us at our Back to School with the Bees webinar series. Today, we are diving into all about how to build your bee club. So just some agenda or some housekeeping items to start. First off, we will be asking you to ask us questions. We're going to have a teacher joining us from one of our schools who'll be sharing her experience, and we will also be diving into all aspects of the bee club. So please use the Q&A function to ask questions. That would be great. And then you can also see other questions that have been asked. So go ahead and upvote them if that's a question that you'd like to be asked as well, in case you have the same question. We will be sharing a copy of the slides in a follow-up email. Megan, do you mind going back to the previous slide? Thanks. Just so that you know, you'll be getting a copy of the slides that way. And we'll also have a recording of this webinar in case you need a copy of that in the follow-up email. And then finally, we encourage you to use the chat to each other. In fact, we'd love if you could get started by sharing the name of your school or your organization that you're joining in from and your location, because we have folks from all over. That would be fantastic. So just a little word about our partnership. Whole Kids Foundation is so just honored to partner with the Bee Cause Project in supporting our bee education initiative. We have partnered with them in our Bee Grant program, which you can find out about on this URL listed here, and we will also include that in the chat. And we're just so excited to support and bring you this webinar series. So with that, I'm going to pass it off to Megan Swanson from the Bee Cause Project. Thanks, Megan.
Hi there. Thank you, Tristana. Sorry about the frenetic presentation changing. So thank you for being here today, everyone. I'm the programs manager at the Bee Cause Project, like Tristana mentioned, and we're going to be joined by Beth McCarty in a second. She is a science educator at a school local to where I am in Charleston, South Carolina, and she heads up several of their bee programs. So today we're really excited. This is one of my favorite topics to talk about with grant recipients or programs, schools, nonprofits that really just want to get their kids, students of all ages, involved in a bee program, whether or not they have live bees. So we'll discuss the story of Beth and what Ashley Hall, her school that she works at, has done with the bees. We'll review Bee Club basics and roles, and then we will go into a breakout session. So at the end of this, we'll go into a breakout session to kind of make a goal for your bee club, how you could do that item. We have mentioned that 2 participants in this webinar will get a educator book club bundle. So we'll do that at the end as well. And before we get started, we're just going to do a quick poll. So this will pop up on your screen in a second, and it'll ask you if you currently host a bee club. Alrighty. So that's great. So we are all beginners here together, and we're really going to be diving in. That's awesome, because we have loads of information to talk about and to really get that buzz and get that momentum going for your bee club. So you're in the right place. And what we'll be talking about today, and something that Beth has worked through over several years with the Bee Cause Project and separately, is growing a bee program. This infographic is available on our website and the Whole Kids Foundation website. And it's just, I love to call it the food pyramid of your bee program, but you're really building those steps and building a strong program. We always say that the strongest applicants for bee grants through the Whole Kid Foundation and the Bee Cause Project, they all start with that buzzworthy foundation of lots of lesson plans and generating the momentum and the buzz in their school or nonprofit organization. Because the more knowledge people have surrounding the bees, the less fear they have around these friendly insects. And the Growing the Bee Club is that second step that we really think you can have a little bit of partnership and support. You can share with students who might have a little bit more interest, etc. They might even want to work with the bees. So at this level, you don't have to have live bees. Beth will address that as well. Live bees are great, but there's so many entry points to work with the bees in every capacity. All right. So I'm excited to introduce Beth McCarty. She is a science educator at Ashley Hall. She works with students of all ages, and most importantly to the webinar today, she is a beekeeper and helps with the hives at Ashley Hall and is here to chat about their bustling bee program. So Beth, I'll hand it off to you.
Great. Well, I am so happy to be here today because talking about bees is one of my all-time favorite things. And I really like to say the bees found me because I did not go out searching for this. I do teach insects to my second graders. So I teach kindergarten through fourth grade at an all-girls school. And I feel really privileged to be able to get girls excited about science and to get excited about insects, because sometimes we get the girls that are saying, ew, gross. And by the end of the unit, they are just fascinated by them. So this all started when we went to a local place called Cypress Gardens, and in their butterfly house, they had an observation hive. And my students and I were captivated. I mean, we were watching these bees, we were finding the queen bee, we were watching the workers, the bees were coming and going. And I said to my other teachers and my team, we have got to get one of these for our school, but we didn't really know how to go about doing that. And about a year later, Tammy Enright from the Bee Cause emailed me and said, would you be interested in a free observation hive? So of course I jumped on that opportunity. I was curious what my principal would say about it. But once Tammy assured us that, you know, bees are not aggressive, and as long as the entrance is not near a busy place, that it's going to be fine. So our principal agreed, and we installed the hive about 6 years ago. And I will never forget that first couple of months. I did not get any planning done because I just sat there and watched. And I watched the queen, and I watched them bringing different color pollen in. And it was just this amazing experience. So if I was that excited, you know, my students were that excited too. And I have the benefit of teaching so many different levels that every time they came into the science lab where the hive was, they would run to the hive and check on them that day. So it was a great spot because I got to reach all of these different age groups. The high school teachers were even bringing their students to the science lab so that they could see the bees. And if you were out on the playground, you could see them coming and going through my window. So that was starting some conversations on campus too. So I had this wonderful teaching tool, and it was going great. And it was going so well that Tammy said, what do you think about getting some real working hives on the rooftop of one of your buildings? So we had to go talk to our insurance guy to make sure we were going to be able to do this with all of our young students out there with live bees. And they approved it, and we set up our first hive. Now, I have never been a beekeeper before this. I did not know the first thing about it. And the Bee Cause set me up with a mentor. And I will never forget the first time I went out there. I mean, my heart was racing. I had my suit on. And that day, those girls were not too happy to see me. And so they were buzzing pretty loud, and they were pinging at me. And it was thrilling, but I was not sold on the first visit. And then as I just went through that year and just learned so much from these fascinating insects, I realized that we need to get the kids out there too. And it started with me just holding the frames up to a glass window and letting them watch the live bees and see me all suited up. And that was with little 2- and 3-year-olds. And then we introduced it to the elementary school. And then I had a coworker that said, let's really get this program going. Let's actually let the kids go out there and see what it's like. So I felt confident with another teacher out there with me. And we got all of these adorable bee suits that you can see in that picture. And usually there are not that many out there. I mean, we started with maybe 3 kids at a time, and the other teacher was inside behind the glass watching. But this was after our program was built. I mean, these girls had probably been out to the hive 5 or 6 times already. And you can see there is no fear. They are just jumping right in. And it's just been such an amazing experience. And obviously kids are going to get stung just because of how they are out there. So they're not going to be as calm as we are. So for instance, if a kid squeezes their hand, they accidentally squeeze a bee, then the stinger can go through the glove. Or sometimes if their bee suit is just a little too short, then their ankles get stung. But even when that happens, they aren't that upset. They understand that that poor bee has lost its life and that they're going to recover. It's okay. So that has not been a big issue. So it's been such a great program. Our high school students go up there as well. We have bigger suits for them, obviously. And 3 times a year, we harvest the honey. And that started because one of my students that learned about bees through our program, she had her own hive in her backyard. So she actually did a honey harvest before we did. And then she came to school and she showed us how to do a honey harvest here. And now we harvest honey 3 times a year, in the spring, summer, and fall. And so that's how we host our bee camps around. So we do a club for 3rd grade in the fall. In the spring, we do 4th grade. And then in the summer, we do a bee camp for anybody in the Charleston area, any children that want to learn more about beekeeping. This picture on the screen now is the best part of the Bee Cause project. You can do a pay it forward program. So they gave us the hive and said, now you have to do part of this pay it forward program where you sell the Bee Cause honey and buy a hive for another school. And my students get so pumped about this because they realize that they're helping another school get a live hive. So it is one of my favorite things about the Bee Cause program, the pay it forward part. But on the little, I don't know if you can tell, but on the little honey jars, they tied tags that have bee facts on it. So one of the ways that they were sharing their information with the rest of the school was by selling these jars that have the cute bee facts on it. And they feel so proud about their bee knowledge. I mean, when they're playing at recess, they will find little bees that are at the end of their life just crawling around on the playground, and they'll hold them in their hand and they'll take them over. They call it a bee hospital, and they get a little shell with water and they make sure it has enough sunlight, and it's really adorable. And it's just nice to see that all of these students now are not afraid of bees. They understand that honeybees are helpful and not aggressive, and it makes them feel powerful that they can share that knowledge and that they can help protect bees too. So if you don't even have the opportunity to have live bees, of course, I think it's the best because I learned so much about bees and I'm still learning about it. They have, through the Bee Cause, they have this education hive, and it comes in the same size that a real hive would be. And then inside, they have the bee frame, and they have something that is educational on each one. So for this one, they're showing you what one of the beetle larvae look like, and this is an invader that could harm your hive. So if you don't have a real hive, you can still have the kids dress up in suits, put the bee gloves on, and actually pretend like they're looking through the real hive. And you can ask them, is our hive healthy today? And if they look through and they find one, they can look here and say, well, look, those larvae look nice and healthy. So it looks like we're on the right track today. So this is a really nice tool to use when right now we aren't allowing the kids to go on the roof just because of the current situation. And so I'm using this a lot with my lessons, and they still love it because they get to see it. This is a picture of that queen bee. So they get to see how her shape is different than all the others. Now, there's also a live digital feed that you can get on the Bee Cause website. And I have not had the chance to look at it yet, but I'm certainly going to look at it soon. And they have little digital bees going around, and that would be a great teaching tool as well. Okay, so I'm ready for questions. I love bees and I've loved this program. It's been absolutely life-changing, and I encourage you all to educate everyone about our lovely bee friends.
If anybody has any questions, just go ahead and pop them into the Q&A section. And if more questions pop up for Beth, after the fact, we can always send the questions her way after. But we don't currently have any questions.
All right, so Beth, I have a question for you. What is one of the greatest impacts that you've received from a student through this Bee Club?
So I have two stories for that. One of them is we have 4 students that after learning about honeybees, they have their own hives in their backyard now. So they are actual beekeepers, and they harvest the honey and they bring in the jars and they have their own labels that they have made. So just the fact that now they're actual beekeepers is so rewarding. And then the other one is we had some people at school that wanted to do a video on our program, and we took some of our Bee Club members up to the roof. And while my coworker and I were still putting on our suits, we looked out the window and all of the students were already opening the hive and telling the videographers exactly what they needed to know. So it was almost like our program had reached a point where we weren't even needed anymore. I mean, we were just standing off on the side and they were telling them everything that they needed to know. There was no fear, and they had that roof off and they were using the tools appropriately, and it was just amazing.
Wow, the students have officially become the teacher.
Yes, yes, it was very powerful.
Well, I see we have a couple questions coming in. Tristana, do you want to read a few of those?
Yes, it looks like we've got a lot around, what's the process of installing the observation hive? Kind of who installed it? Yeah, let's start there.
Okay, so I'm actually sitting right by where my hive used to be, so I'm going to show you what the setup is, and it depends where your school is located. And someone, in my case, someone from the Bee Cause came to look at the campus and picked the best spot. We wanted it to be in the science lab because every grade level would be there. A lot of people put it in the library because that gets all the grade levels too. So you don't really want to put it in one teacher's first grade classroom because then only that class is benefiting from it. So this is my science lab. And for me, they did it through a window that goes outside, and then the whole hive sits at that window frame. The tube, it's kind of hard. There's that tube right there. You can also get it.
Beth, your sound is coming in and out. Your sound is coming in. We just want to make sure we hear this great info. I'm not sure if you're like covering the mic or something.
I was walking around. Let me stay still. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, that's better. It is great to see what you're showing, but we just couldn't hear you.
So I was saying you can get a clear tube so that you can actually see the bees coming in and out through that tube. But basically, somebody from the Bee Cause came and installed it. So I was not involved in putting that up. I mean, Megan, is that what would happen?
Yeah, so, and for everyone on the webinar, Beth is local to Charleston. That's where the Bee Cause is based. And she was one of our first recipients of that observation Beehive grant that we provide through the Whole Kid Foundation. So just a little background on that. This year, that grant is on hold. We're focusing on renewal grants for all of our past Bee Grant recipients so that we can help them bridge a lot of the challenges that this year has posed for a lot of programs. However, next year, we are looking forward to launching that Bee Grant program again in the fall of 2021. And that is where the observation hives come into play. So just like what Beth was just showing us, throughout that application process, if that's a great fit for your school, we'll work with you to figure out the best location. And we also have resources on the beecause.org/resource. We'll make sure you have that address. There is a Bee Grant overview PDF, and that will start to introduce kind of what you'll need to be looking for, where you could install it, if you could do something like Beth and their science lab did, where it's through a window, or you can drill a hole through cinder block walls. Every school is different, so we've definitely worked with lots of different environments on that.
Great. And then we have a question about how do you, Beth, engage students during the winter months, or at least during non-beekeeping months?
So I actually do my insect unit in November and December. So I actually do it in the winter months. Now in Charleston, I know it doesn't get that cold, but the bees are still working then, and you can still see bees outside foraging for some food, but most of that honey is stored in their hive. So that would be a great time to pull up the digital hive, or to use that box resource that I have, where they can actually see what the frames look like, and they can be checking on their pretend hive every day. But there's still plenty you can do during the winter months. I have them become a beehive. So my whole room transforms into a hive, and one of them's the queen bee. They all get different jobs. There's a guard bee, there's a nurse bee, and we all just become a beehive in here. So that's a fun thing you could do.
And the digital hive that Beth mentioned, we just published this video. So if you don't have live bees on your campus, or a lot of our programs have part-time bees, so maybe they have live beehives that exist outside on their campus, like Beth's school has hives on their rooftop, or if you have an observation hive in a chillier area where bees might not enjoy being in an observation hive year-round if the temperatures inside aren't as cozy for them. So some schools keep bees in an observation hive for maybe 6 weeks out of the school year, and observe, and then they'll switch them back out to the beekeeper's apiary. If that's the case, our digital hive feed, it's a 30-minute video reel of actual video footage from inside an observation hive, the fully glassed in observation hive. And then there's also little lessons in between. That comes with an educator guide and lesson plan. It's all mapped to the Common Core and Next Generation Science standards. So if you go to the Bee Cause Project on YouTube, that video is there. We've worked with it on a smart board before. It can come up on your mobile phone if you're working with students, distance learning style. So that is a really great opportunity. There's also several feeds online for checking out the inside of a beehive. So there are so many outlets if you don't have live bees, but you'd like to introduce your kiddos, like Beth said, at any time of the year. There's something buzzing somewhere.
Awesome. We're going to be diving a little bit into this later with Megan, but Beth, could you share any advice you have for approaching admins about permission and supporting the program?
Well, I was really lucky to be able to talk to Tammy Enright, who started the Bee Cause, because she helped me with it's really the right words that you use, right? The wording around it. You need to teach the admin that bees are not aggressive. And if you have any numbers that you can use, like you could even say, well, I know the school at Ashley Hall had no increase in bee stings after they installed their hives, which is the truth. I mean, kids are getting stung on the playground always, right? I mean, it's not a lot, but they get stung. Is it just because we installed a hive? No, it's because they accidentally stepped on a bee that could have been from a different hive down the road. But I think as long as you let them know that they're not aggressive, and if you have to literally squeeze a bee in your hand or step on a bee to have it sting you.
Yeah, and we also have on our website, on that resources page again, we have template letters for parents and community members, so that, like we mentioned in that Growing Your Bee program infographic, if you start with the lessons and foundations and really educating your administration and parents at home about the benefits of those bee programs. Also, like Beth said, the bees on your campus, on your school campus or organization campus, might not be from that hive. So bees forage up to 5 miles around for their food. And that's something that a lot of people don't know. So emphasizing that the bee stings, if there's a sting that happens on a playground before you get a beehive, that same bee or that same insect could be there after you get a hive. It's really, the bees forage very far around, so there isn't an increase in risk if you take all the proper precautions, and we definitely are here to help with that. We'll have our email addresses at the end of this, but info@thebeecause.org. I'm always here to answer questions. That's definitely a huge step to get across, or a bridge to cross, so that everyone is comfortable with these programs.
And I found the best way is to have the students, after they've learned about the bees, ask them if they want to hive, and then have the students approach the admin and tell them why, have them write a persuasive essay. Why should we have bees on campus?
Exactly.
And why is it not as dangerous?
That's a great idea. Well, I know, so Beth is going to need to hop off because she is an educator and she needs to go teach a class. But I just wanted to say thank you. And if we have any other questions specifically for Beth, we'll make sure that they get to her, and we will respond to you after this webinar with her answers to those questions.
I did see that somebody wrote something about kids that are allergic, and that actually does come up a lot at our school. In the beginning, those parents were invited on campus to look at the hive and see where it was situated. And once they saw that the bee traffic was just high at the entry point, that they felt safe that their child was fine on the playground. They could see everybody playing on the playground and the bees were nowhere near them. So sometimes a parent just seeing what the setup is calms them down. And then at our school, if you have an insect allergy, you're carrying an EpiPen with you at all times. And so that kind of covered it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, thank you so much. This was so fun to talk about the bees, and I will be happy to answer any more questions you have. I'll talk bees all day, every day. So thank you.
So Beth is going to head out so she can get to her class, and we're going to continue on to learning the basics of how to build your bee club. So thank you, Beth. We will talk to you soon.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye. All right, everyone. So that was great. I hope we all learned something from Beth. She's such a great resource. And again, she's had a bee cause hive in her school and live hives on their roof for several years now. So she is a wonderful resource as well for really riding the wave of how to approach a lot of questions surrounding live bees on your campus. The topic of stings is a necessary conversation to have. So I'm really glad she was able to address that as well. And as we continue, I'm going to dive into this resource we have on our website. Again, it is on www.thebecause.org/resources. And this is our How to Build Your Bee Club document. This is an overview. So if you are wanting to do a bee club, whether it's with live bees or not, and I really want to emphasize, there are so many bee clubs out there, they don't have live bees. They're just really passionate about learning about our pollinators. They want to look at their campus and see what native plants are there, etc. So this document, we will make sure to link to it and send that out in our follow-up. So you will get this as we scroll through. And I'm just going to go through a couple larger items within this document. What Beth was mentioning, kind of that demonstrated need, either for a bee grant or for a bee club, declining bee populations, and helping your students understand how that affects their ecosystem. That's a big item. That's that bird's eye view. This is why we should be teaching this. Another item particularly relevant during the response to COVID and everyone adapting to distance learning is engagement. I believe the study is done through Cornell, but students are 6 times more likely to retain information that they're actively engaged in. And if you have never seen a child stare through a piece of glass into a beehive, that is the definition of engagement and being engaged with what you're learning about. There's a sense of ownership and responsibility that students gain in these programs, that they really start to understand their daily actions really have an impact. And those tiny moments of understanding turn into conversations, which the Bee Club is excellent for because you can continue those conversations there. Alrighty, these are suggestions. If you have received a bee grant or are looking to receive a bee grant in the future, a lot of these roles might sound very familiar to you. The bee advocate is most likely you if you are interested in starting a bee club or program at your school. you are the program leader. You are the fearless queen bee who is going to take this and really herald the message to the rest of your school or community organization. Your bee mentor, this is someone who is required through a bee grant program, but through a bee club, whether or not you have live bees, connect with a local beekeeper. You can find beekeepers through your beekeeper association. These are normally organized on a local county, town, municipality level, depending upon where you live. If you just type that into your into the search bar, local beekeeper association to where you live, it'll pop up, and shoot them a message. Being able to partner with a beekeeper is a vital step. They could even come into one of your online classes if you're teaching digitally and be able to present that way, maybe from one of their hives. And again, up that engagement and be able to really reach out to students at a time when we're having to filter through a lot of lessons in a different capacity, in a different learning environment. The Bee Club members, of course, and then our community supporters. So like Clemson 4-H is a local community supporter of several of our programs in Charleston. Across the country, we have over 550 bee grant programs. All of those have available to them a 4-H agent that is out of a local extension office. Those 4-H agents are excellent partners. They are tasked with going into classrooms and working with educators, providing resources, etc. So being able to really draw on that support. You are the bee advocate, but who else can bolster your program and act as your right-hand man or woman and really take this to the next level? Alrighty, so these are a couple of the initiatives that we have seen past bee programs or bee clubs work on. It's everything under the sun. You can take this however you want it. If you don't have live bees, you can work through a lesson plan, make a goal together. We'll talk about that later in the presentation. And it's also just a great place to touch base with students right now, whether you're in a classroom or not. Being able to touch base with students and giving them a journal prompt or an item to draw, being able to just look outside and ask for observations. Those are big things when students have so much on their plate as well. So a lot of these initiatives are really fun. They're tiny moments like posting bee facts, talking about our monthly buzz classroom calendar, all the way up to creating a goal to plant more native pollinator plants on your campus or working with a local park system to do so. So we are going to take some of those initiatives. I'll bring that screen back up in a second, and we're going to split up for just a few minutes into a breakout session. And what these breakout sessions are for is to really come together and introduce yourself, first of all, introduce where you are in the path of your bee program, and then talk about one of those initiatives that might work for your program. And then after a few minutes, we'll come back together into the presentation to chat about it and wrap up.
Megan, I'm so sorry. We did not realize this, but breakout sessions are not allowed in Zoom webinars, only on Zoom meetings. So we cannot physically do that. But I'm wondering if there's a way that we could do it either via the chat, or if folks do want to share, you can click the raise your hand button and I can allow for you to speak and you can share, introduce yourself and identify, one of these key initiatives that you could see yourself doing. Yeah. So either, if you want to written through the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can kind of share amongst ourselves. We are a pretty small group. There's only about 10 participants on. So, don't be shy. We'd love to hear what initiatives resonate with you. Great. Leslie, I see that you have raised your hand. I'm going to allow you to talk. Oh, wait, whoops. There we go. Okay, Leslie, we should be able to hear you.
Hi, Leslie. And just make sure you unmute at the bottom of your screen if you are chatting. There we go. Hi, how are you?
Good. We came from the end of, we put in a garden and last year, and so we're turning it into a pollinator's garden on one side, and then we're going to do vegetables and raised beds for the kids.
Awesome.
This will be the extension of the pollinator's garden, coming back now learning about bees this way.
Lovely. And what age group are you working with?
We are a Head Start, Early Childhood Special Ed, and Virginia Preschool Initiative.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. I would love to hear more about your program.
Yes, thank you, Leslie. Okay, great. And that looks like Lisa Burkhart, you have also raised your hand, and I'm allowing you to speak as well.
So I'm a former science teacher and a current volunteer at a local arboretum in Indiana. And they have an observation hive that never lives over the winter. So I've been trying to work with them because I have my own hives at home.
Yes.
At expanding or coming up with a better hive situation than what they have. But every summer we offer summer classes, and I'm just a week-long class for all elementary, probably age groups. And I'm thinking that if we had a beehive, we could do a whole week long about pollinators. There's also a prairie is on part of the arboretum. So we have a lot of the resources already built in. We just need to get the group of kids.
Oh, wow, that's great. And Lisa, also, we have a program, it's called, well, we awarded a grant to an amazing program and right outside of Detroit. It's called Rescue Michigan Nature Now. And they do a lot of like tracking where the bees go in local, they're in a more built up area, but on vacant lots where there's lots of marigold or wildflowers. It's an urban prairie, but they do a lot of watching where the bees go and tracking the bees, etc. So that sounds like you have such a great landscape to work with. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing. Does anyone else want to share one of your initiatives?
Yes, we've got Caroline. I'm going to allow you to talk.
Hi, my name is Caroline Hutton. I'm in Washington, D.C. at an elementary school. The way we've incorporated bees, I'm a beekeeper already. I'm also a parent at the school and now a staff. I run a more general garden club, but everybody knows I'm the bee lady. So we've done a number of these things, and I've brought them to general ed classrooms like the pollinator planting and things like that when we're talking about erosion. I love the idea, I just lost it now, the library reading corner and the bee facts, maybe around the certain holidays. Those sounded really cool, and our ideas I'll incorporate. But a couple of things that I would share and suggest to other schools, when our harvest has not always been able to coincide with the school year to have kids participate, but I've often either auctioned an experience where people can come with me in the hive or to do honey harvesting, and then sold the honey through the PTA as a fundraiser to the school, and also to donate to families through our school grocery delivery program. And then again, in the winter, we do rehab on the boxes. We paint boxes, we decorate boxes, and it's not always the most exciting part of beekeeping, but it's something that's very easy for the kids to get involved in without, the classroom management issues in the apiary.
Yes, definitely. One of my favorite activities for the winter, when you're doing exactly what you said, when you're kind of fixing up the apiary items and all of the equipment, is to set a name for the incoming queen. If it's a new hive, or you can do a school-wide or campus-wide community group naming session, so everyone gets a part in voting to name the new queen. That's wonderful. Thanks for sharing, Caroline. And I did want to mention, when Lisa was sharing, she mentioned bees making it through the winter. Earlier, I was speaking about how some of these observation hives or hives on campus, it might not be the best space. There might not be as much forage around, or depending upon just the bees decide what they like and what they don't like. So sometimes setting that time to have a 6-week installation. So if you have the observation hive, you have the bees for a certain period of time, and then they go back to the apiary. When the bees are not in their observation hive, you can hang those frames, those images that Beth showed us earlier. So you can have some sort of observation all year round.
Great. All right, next we're going to hear from Timothy. Timothy, you should be on.
Timothy, how are you?
Hello, everyone. Tim Jackson here with Detroit Hives, nonprofit organization focused on working to create sustainable communities and bee populations by transferring vacant lots into educational apiaries. In 2017, we had the privilege of prototyping an educational program called Be the Change in partnership with the Skimming Foundation. And what Be the Change is a conservation fellowship designed to empower and equip inner city students to learn how to combat vacant lots themselves in their own community. And through this program, we were able to award these conservation fellows a grant to transform a vacant lot near my alma mater, Mumford High School, into a community gathering space that consisted of a community garden along with outdoor learning library. With that, we've been able to expand and focus on environmental initiatives around urban beekeeping and environmental sustainability. And we've educated well over 5,000 students on the importance of bee conservation, including today. In spite of COVID, we've been able to still move forward and pivot and create virtual educational opportunities.
Awesome. And if anyone on this webinar is not familiar with Detroit Hives, Timothy, I'm the one behind Instagram who's always liking your posts, but everyone should follow Detroit Hives on social media and Instagram. They are always in the hive. They have the best painted and decorated hives, and their work is wonderful. They are doing such great things in Detroit, and it's a pleasure to be able to follow along with their journey. So thank you for sharing so much. The Be the Change program is definitely one to watch and donate to in the season of giving. So thank you for joining today, Timothy.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
Great to be here.
Thanks, Tim. Nice to hear your voice. And then next we'll hear from Nancy. Nancy, you should be.
Hello, my name is Nancy Thorne. I'm located in just outside of Pittsburgh. I am a beekeeper, and I'm also a Pennsylvania Master Naturalist trainee. I'm not involved with the school, but I am potentially going to be installing an apiary at our Pennsylvania Clean Ways Recycling Center. And they just purchased this location, and it's a nice opportunity because they have 5 acres or so behind the building. And they would like to, develop it with some walking paths and an apiary. So I'm hoping that I could do something similar to what you would do in a school, but maybe on more of a community level. So that's what I'm sort of getting started in planning.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. And what a great hand-in-hand location and landscape combination of being able to teach about how bees reduce, reuse, recycle in their own right and in their own lives. Thank you for sharing.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Nancy. I think that's all we have from folks who have raised their hand to share about their programs. Thank you so much for doing that and kind of getting our ideas flowing.
Alrighty, so whoops. There we go. Just trying to make sure everyone's awake with my fast slide changing. Yeah, what Tristana said, thank you everyone for sharing. This is really the point of these Back to School with the Bees webinars, is really to kind of create community and chat around these topics. I don't want to talk at you and for too much longer, but I did want to mention being able to set a bee club goal. Like several of you just mentioned, the ventures or mission or initiatives that you're working on. You can do a new initiative every year. It can be campus wide. You can have that small bee club that communicates things on the school news in the morning or via your social media channels. One of our lesson plans that is one of my favorites It's the Be a Friend to Pollinators lesson plan. Again, this is on our resources page. This is a page out of that lesson plan. And what this entire plan is about is mapping your campus, or if you're not with a school, you're a nonprofit organization, community organization, installing an apiary in your community at any place. You can take a group of students of any age and map out that location. This particular lesson plan is mapped to the Common Core and Next Generation Science standards for grades 3 through 5, but it's applicable anywhere in between pre-K to high school. So you can take this lesson and map a very specific site. It could be an imaginary site, and you figure out, is that site a home for bees? And one goal that you could set as a bee club is to say, hey, how could we make this site better? Whether or not you and your bee club could actually work to make that specific site better. I know school systems, sometimes it's a little difficult to be able to plant on site, but even if you have one plot or garden, or you work with a local park, if you don't have land on campus, we completely meet people where they are. And this is such a great lesson plan for that. And for your older students to work with your municipality and to see on a municipal level, where are the native bee habitats in your town center? So that's one of our favorites for setting goals. We will include the link to this really simple bee club planning calendar. So if you're just starting out, we've mentioned a couple of items throughout the year that make sense for that time of the year, and then dates to remember. So Earth Day, World Bee Day, Honey Bee Day, National Honey Month, the list goes on. These are all really great opportunities to engage students and engage your community, get them excited, have a honey sale, connect with a local beekeeper, and zoom them into your students. All of those are tiny micro learning opportunities that really add up to those larger conversations and initiatives where the conversations start to turn into actual change in your community and your school campus. And again, for us, it all goes back to that engagement. How can we reach students at a level where they're getting engaged with their natural world around them and understanding that they could make tea out of the flowers that are growing around in a vacant lot or a prairie setting, etc. They could do something with all of those materials just like the bees do. So that brings us to the end of our presentation. And I just wanted to mention really quickly, we do have upcoming webinars. One is a community engagement webinar where we'll be speaking with one of our board members, Amy Dabbs, who is the South Carolina State School Garden Coordinator. So she is a master gardener. She works every day, all day, with helping schools get gardens implemented in their curriculum and programming. She has also helped us with that Be a Friend to Pollinators lesson plan on our YouTube channel. Her and her team created a distance learning video at the beginning of the response to COVID when everyone in South Carolina went home for class. That video helped a lot of educators to still get that lesson plan done at home. So that was really great. She's going to be talking all about the partners in our community who you can lean on to grow your bee program, get educational materials from, find that support. And then on December 2nd, if you're applying to the renewal grant this year, those applications are open now. Renewal grants are open to any previous bee grant recipient. All of you are encouraged to apply. The link is there. You can learn more about this on the Bee Cause website or the Whole Kids Foundation. We're incredibly excited to provide this opportunity this year. So that renewal grant live Q&A will be all about the application process. And I'll let Tristana, we had mentioned in some of our communications that 2 webinar attendees were choosing randomly to provide 2 educator book bundles. So I'll let her hop on, and then after that, we'll take any questions you may have.
Great. Our 2 webinar giveaway recipients will be Caroline Hutton and Tara Felder, randomly chosen. So Caroline and Tara, we will be following up with you to send you those book bundles. Yeah.
There's nothing more exciting than a book bundle. Alrighty, so Tristana, if you just want to let me know if there's any questions. And again, info@thebeecause.org. All of your questions can be forwarded there, and I will be here to help.
Great. Well, we did have some leftover questions from earlier that were a little bit more technical that I thought maybe you could answer more specifically. So one of our questions was, how do you protect the flight path on the outside of the observation hive?
Yes, so whether you have traditional hives on campus, like the bee boxes, like Ashley Hall has on their roof, or if you have an observation hive, fencing is key. So when bees leave their hive, they only fly horizontally for a couple feet before they go vertical. And what we suggest, wherever you install that observation hive, if we would work with you on that. But the exit tube, we suggest that it's on a south-facing wall, so it gets that nice sun. But with that, you can put light fencing up. Excuse me. And then we also have ample signage. So if you receive a bee grant, there's lots of signage that mentions you can put that on the outside of the fencing. But the key with that fencing is that the bees fly out and then up. They're not going up and then exploring around. They're going up and then they're going to forage up to 5 miles away. So we really just, and that's light fencing. I think there's like little bamboo panels that you can get, and then you can hang your signage on the outside. But the bees really, they buzz out of that hive. There might be a little activity right at that exit area, and then they go up and away to find their food. They're on a mission. They're busy.
Awesome, thank you. And then I'm not sure if you feel like you might have already answered this question, but we also got a question about how to manage, I'm assuming the observation hive, from kind of overcrowding and swarming.
Yeah, definitely. So this is handled, again, if you receive a bee grant, that Beekeeper Mentor is your number one partner in all of this. Since the bee cause can't be in every individual location, that Beekeeper Mentor is your local guide to gauging the temperature on your bees. So if you have an observation hive and you have decided to keep that in there year round or in a busier season, such as May, June, early July, when swarms might be happening, you're going to work with your beekeeper to really understand if they're starting to build queen cells and if they've laid any brood, all of these factors that contribute to a swarm. That's when you would either take the observation hive off the wall, which it is a lot easier than you would think. The tubes close off at the top and bottom, and you can remove that, take it outside, and manage the hive. We suggest, if that question came from a beekeeper, we suggest going in as the Beekeeper Mentor at least once a month, not going into the hive, but at least visiting the site. And then all of the beekeeper advocates will report to you on a weekly basis. We have videos on our resources page of our website that are for beekeeper advocates, beginner beekeepers, or those who are educators who are not beekeepers, where they can learn how to notice brood, and when the brood are laying a lot, or when the queen is laying a lot more brood than normal, indicators of an upcoming swarm, etc. So you can stay on top of that. But largely, if you're in an area like Charleston, where all summer long it is absolute nuts with bees swarming, it'll happen well into the fall. We do suggest working with that part-time, having the bees in there part-time, just because you can kind of head it off at the pass that way. But otherwise, it's really about open lines of communication between the beekeeper advocate and beekeeper mentor.
Amazing, thank you. And then we just got a question about the observation hive and if it can be on a south wall and on the second floor.
Yes, it can. We actually have a school in downtown Charleston that I think it's on the third floor. That's absolutely fine as long as it's okay with the school. You just have to work with their programming. We suggest having it in an area where it's easier to carry outside. These are heavier items, but many hands make light work. I've never taken a hive down myself. I could if I needed to, but it's one of those things where as long as it's in an area where you can safely maybe put it on a little dolly cart so the bees aren't getting bumped around, so you can take it outside to maintenance, you can definitely work with a location that isn't on that primary floor.
Great. Thank you, Megan.
Yeah.
Well, if there are no further questions, we'll wrap up today's webinar. Really appreciate your expertise and that of Beth. Thank you all so much for joining us, for your time, and for your interest in getting the buzz going with your students, with your youth.
Yeah, thank you guys for being here today, and we hope to see you on future webinars. Hope you're all doing well.